Hi, I'm Dr. Douglas Ozier. I'm a registered psychologist working at the BC Cancer Agency in Vancouver. In this video, I'd like to share with you what I believe may be one of the most powerful strategies out there for helping you to return to work successfully after cancer. The strategy is learning how to set effective goals so that you can successfully carry out the kinds of return to work activities that you're learning about in this course. Okay, so how does this goal setting strategy work? Well, the first thing I want you to know is that it's useful to think of goals as existing on 4 different levels. The first level of goal is your overall goal. The second are goal areas. The third are concrete goals within those goal areas. And the fourth are SMART goals. The highest level, as I said, is the overall goal, what you're ultimately trying to achieve. It's important to try and state your overall goal as simply and clearly as you can. So let's imagine Jane. Jane's a colon cancer survivor. Jane might state her goal as, I want to return successfully to my job as a full-time project manager. Okay, now is her goal of returning to work successfully a single thing? No, of course not. Within that overall goal, Jane will find that there are several different goal areas. Now, what these specific goal areas will be in your particular case could be really different depending on your specific work situation. Whether, for example, you're returning to an existing job or needing to find a new job. But some common examples of goal areas in return to work after cancer would be increasing my physical preparedness for return to work, increasing my emotional preparedness for return to work, increasing my mental preparedness for return to work, and arranging for any necessary accommodations that I might need during my return to work. So now that we have these different goal areas, we go one level down to concrete level goals. It's at this level that you'll brainstorm specific actions or behaviors that you could actually do to help you move forward your overall goal within a particular goal area. So, for example, within Jane's sub-goal of increasing her emotional preparedness to return to work, she might brainstorm the actions of doing some relaxation practice, attending a support group, and doing some journaling. Now, most people would stop at this second lowest level with a concrete goal as, I'll do some relaxation exercises before I go back to work. However, in the rest of this video, I'll teach you how to take goals like this one step further down and turn them into well-crafted SMART goals, a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable and realistic, and time-limited. I'll also be explaining why it can be so helpful to transform your concrete level goals into SMART goals rather than leaving them at that slightly higher, more general level. Now, as an example of what a SMART goal might actually look like, Jane might take her goal of, I'll do some relaxation exercises before I go back to work, and restate it as a good SMART goal of, this week, I'll listen to my relaxation exercise for 20 minutes 2 times. As I said, a good SMART goal is a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-limited. Now, I'm going to go through each of these 5 letters and talk about them one by one. The S is for specific. This means that you are totally clear on what you're going to do, and you've done your best to identify in advance any barriers to actually doing it. So let's go back to our example of Jane. This time, let's look at her sub-goal area of increasing her mental preparedness to return to work. In this domain, Jane has decided to set a SMART goal for this week of doing 3-hour blocks of work simulation 3 times. Work simulation is a strategy where before returning to work, you build up your capacities by doing tasks that have similar kinds of demands as the tasks that you'll have once you're actually back at work. So as a project manager, for Jane, this might involve tasks that require high levels of concentration, problem solving, and the use of a computer. So imagine that she just put work simulation 3 hours 3 times this week. That looks like a great SMART goal at first. The only problem with it is that it isn't specific enough, because Jane hasn't thought through what specific activities she'll actually do at home in order to simulate work. Not just any kind of activity will do for this. So when she sits down at home on Monday morning to do her first work simulation block, she'll suddenly realize she doesn't actually know what to concretely do. Maybe she'll adjust in the moment and brainstorm some activities like, maybe I could do my taxes, or maybe I could do some of the budgeting work that I've been needing to do for the condo board that I sit on. Now, if that happens, things will be fine, she'll be right on track. But all too often in situations like this, people get stuck at this point and they become frustrated. So their forward momentum stops. And suddenly they get distracted by doing something else, like watching TV or cruising the internet. This kind of response is especially likely for people who may be struggling with some anxiety, some depression, or pain symptoms. So the lesson is clear your way. Think through as much detail as you can about exactly what you'll do and make sure, if you can, that these last-minute questions don't become an unneeded barrier to success. Okay, let's move on to the M. M is for measurable. Measurable means that your SMART goal is stated in terms that can be measured as concretely as possible. Now, this can involve either units of task completion or units of time. So for example, let's imagine Ben, a survivor of lymphoma who needs to find a new job after cancer treatment. He might set a task-based goal such as, this week I will apply for 2 jobs. Or he might set a time-based goal in the same direction, which would be something like, this week I will spend 6 hours applying for jobs. Time or task-based goals can each be a better fit. It really just depends on the specific goal in question. So why is it so important to state your goals in measurable terms? The most important reason is that doing this gives you a chance to regularly experience the feeling of success. And in my view, regularly experiencing this feeling of success is the single most important element in the power of the SMART goal setting approach. Imagine that Ben set his goal in not particularly measurable terms, like this week, I'll call people I know in my field to let them know I'm looking for work. Now let's say the week goes by, he ends up calling 4 people in the week. At the end of the week, did he reach his goal? I guess. I mean, he did call some people. But when exactly did that happen? When did he reach his goal? Without a specific definition of success for himself, there will be no specific moment when he'll be able to clearly say to himself, I did it. On the other hand, imagine instead that he'd said, this week I'm going to call 4 people in my field to let them know that I'm looking for work. Now, when on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. he hangs up the phone from his 4th call, he'll be able to say to himself, I did it. I'm successfully committing towards my goal of returning to work. At that specific moment, if he takes the time to notice, he will likely notice an actual emotion of success, which is most often felt as a good feeling of warmth or energy in the chest. So, is having and taking the time to notice these good feelings of small successes at regular points along the journey really such a big deal? I'd argue that it is. In fact, I'd say that having these regular experiences of the feeling of success along the difficult journey of returning to work after cancer is one of the single biggest factors in helping people to continue making the continued efforts they'll need to make in order to return to work successfully. These little moments of success which keep us motivated towards achieving our overall goals and help us to sustain our efforts, even when things get hard along the way. Okay, so in this slide, I want to talk about both the A and the R, because to me, they're essentially the same thing. The A is for achievable and the R is for realistic. So why is it so important to set goals that are achievable and realistic? Well, it strongly goes back to the same reason as with the S for specific, but even more so. Because setting realistic goals helps you to achieve success, which helps you to feel the feeling of success, which is what sustains your motivation over time. When we set unrealistically high goals, we'll usually fail to reach them. Now, instead of that good feeling of success, you'll likely feel disappointment and discouragement instead. This bad feeling is discouraging and leads to self-doubt, which is the very opposite reactions that come with those feelings of successful achievement. These feelings of discouragement very often lead people to give up on their goals, especially when things get challenging, which they inevitably will at some stage in the process. So let's use the example of Omar. Omar is an engineer who 10 months ago was diagnosed with colon cancer. Before cancer, Omar was able to concentrate very strongly for hours at a time. However, now he finds that he gets tired more easily, including becoming mentally fatigued much more quickly because of treatment side effects and anxiety. Now imagine that Omar sets the goal of working at his engineering job full-time without any transition, such as in a graduated return to work. Without working full-time would have been an easy goal for him before cancer, of course, but given his current levels of cognitive functioning, his goal will be much too high. Now, how is he likely to feel at the end of his first week back at work? Of course, he's likely to feel discouraged, down on himself, anxious, and these feelings will likely lessen the chances that he'll continue to just do his best the following week, which in turn will likely lead to further lessening of his confidence and lessening of his ability to concentrate. Now, if this negative cycle continues, it's likely that he'll be less likely to succeed overall and to end up feeling deeply discouraged, possibly quite depressed, and less able to concentrate than when he started. In the end, he may give up. Now, imagine instead that Omar had set a realistic initial goal based on what he knows he can do at home when he does tasks that require concentration, such as, I'm going to start with 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. Now, at the end of the first week, given the goal of 4 hours a day, 3 days a week that he did, how he will have achieved his goal. And now, instead of feelings of discouragement, he'll experience the opposite, good feelings of confidence and positivity. These good feelings will likely help him to achieve slightly more the next week, and so on, so that after a couple of months, it's likely that Omar will have strongly increased his capacity to concentrate and be much closer to his cognitive potential. Now, instead of a negative cycle, through using a realistic SMART goal approach, Omar will have created a positive cycle instead. So, at this stage, an important question becomes, how do you set a SMART goal that is achievable and realistic? The answer is to look at the data, just like a scientist would. Not what you think you should be able to do or what you would have been able to do before cancer, but what you have actually been able to do in the last week or two. So if you went to the gym 5 times a week before cancer, but now you haven't been for months, set yourself up for success. Start with once or maybe twice and build from there, not with the 5 times that a part of you will tell yourself you should be able to do. Another powerful way to make sure your goal is realistic is to do what I call the quick gut check. After you set your goal, read it back to yourself quietly, but out loud. Say, for example, you might say to yourself, I'm at least 90% confident that I'll get myself to the gym 4 times this week. Then, listen to the sensations that arise in the area of your chest and stomach. Very often, if you set your goal unrealistically high, which again is anything less than 90% confident, then you will often feel a slight tightening sensation in that area of your body. So then, if you lower your goal to a level that you are 90% confident of achieving, for example, saying, okay, I'll get to the gym 3 times this week, typically that tightening sensation will then have gone away. This is a sign that you've now reached an achievable, realistic level. A lot of people find this strategy sounds a little strange, but I'm really struck by how often it helps my clients to use the power of their body to self-correct and to lower the goals in a way that sets them up for long-term success. Of all of the letters in the acronym, the A and the R are by far the most important. However, this aspect of SMART goal setting is also almost always the hardest for cancer survivors because it often requires them to face the feelings of sadness, anger, or grief that can come from seeing that things are as they actually are, at least for now, and seeing how different this new normal can be from the old normal. So if you find it challenging to have the self-compassion to set realistic and achievable goals, just know that that's normal, but I really encourage you to do your best anyway. Okay, finally, T is for time limited. This one's really straightforward. Basically, it just reminds you that a SMART goal always needs to be put into a specific time period. So you never say, I'll apply for 6 new jobs. You'll always say, I'll apply for 6 new jobs this week. Okay, now that I've told you what a good SMART goal is, I want to talk a little bit about a process for helping you to work with and adjust your SMART goals effectively over time. Here's the process. First, once a week, put aside 5 to 10 minutes, ideally at the same time each week, to do a goal review and goal setting session with yourself. I can't overstate the importance of this step. Without a regular time to think about and adjust your goals going forward, the process of SMART goal setting is much less likely to be helpful for you. 2, to set your initial goals, decide which sub-goal domains you want to focus on for your first week. Again, for example, working on your emotional health or your mental or your cognitive health. 3, within a chosen sub-goal domain, brainstorm some actions that you can take to achieve this sub-goal. 4, now from the actions that you brainstorm, choose a few goals and change them to SMART goal form, writing them on your goal tracking form for this process. Next, stand back and look at each goal individually and make sure that it's actually SMART, especially that it's realistic and achievable. This is where your gut check process can be really helpful. Once each individual goal is well crafted, then stand back and reflect on whether the overall number of goals is actually realistic for you this week. If your gut says no, then take a goal or two and leave them for a future week. 6, now as you go through your week, make a check on your sheet in the right-hand column each time you achieve a step in your goal. Each of these moments is actually a moment of mini success. So I really encourage you to let yourself notice and feel good as you have taken that specific step. 7, as your week goes by, use that right-hand column on the form to write any brief comment about anything that may be useful to remember, such as unexpected challenges that came up or a strategy you discovered to help motivate yourself. Or if you ended up doing more than you have set for yourself, note that as well. At the end of the week, do your goal review session. For goals that you did achieve last week, decide if you'd like to raise the goal a little bit based on your successes. Remember to use the gut check to see if you're raising it too fast so that the new goal is also achievable. On the other hand, if you've not fully successfully succeeded on a goal, take a bit of time to reflect on why. If you decide that it's because the goal no longer feels relevant or meaningful for you, then you may choose to let it go and replace it with a new goal. On the other hand, if you decide that the goal is still important, but an unexpected barrier came up, such as coming down with a cold that made it too hard to get to the gym, then decide if the barrier is likely to be gone this next week or if you can think of a way around it. In these cases, it will likely be best just to keep the goal the same as last week, even though you didn't achieve it. On the other hand, if you can identify a specific barrier or a strategy to overcome any kind of barrier this coming week, then the advice is to actually lower the goal to get back on track with success. Lowering the goal for the coming week often feels counterintuitive to people, but take my word for it, it is often the fastest way to getting back on track and re-establishing momentum so you can later re-raise the goal in a week or two. So that's it, the whole process of SMART goal setting and how to work with SMART goals effectively. I strongly encourage you to give this strategy a try. I hope this video has been of value to you. I'm Dr. Douglas Ozier. Thanks for watching.